Thank you for handing me the opportunity to introduce these two projects here. First, a bit about myself. My name is Carlos Duarte. I'm 48, white skin, short hair, growing bald. I'm wearing glasses at the moment. I need them for working on computers. And as Pilar said, I'm an engineer. I'm a computer science professor at the Faculty of Sciences of the University of Lisbon. I'm a researcher at a research unit. It's called LASIG. And I'm going to present two projects here today. One of them is called WAI Tools. I am the coordinator of the University of Lisbon participation in that project. The other one is SONAR. I am the principal investigator of that project. Other interesting things about me in this context, I'm one of the Portuguese representatives in the Lead Me Management Committee. I am the co-chair of the W3C Accessibility Conformance Testing Rules Community Group. And if you don't know what ACT rules are, you will know in some minutes. I'm also a member of the W3C WAI Curricula Task Force. This is a task force that's working inside the Web Accessibility Initiative to design curricula for teaching web accessibility in different perspectives for designers, for developers, for content authors. And I'm also the University of Lisbon's advisory committee representative at W3C. So as you can see, a lot of my work, my research work falls within the scope of W3C Web Accessibility Initiative. So that's where my research has been focusing more and more in the past years. But enough about me, and let me talk about these two EU-funded projects that I've been working in the last years and months. The first one, it's called WAI Tools. It's an Horizon 2020 project. It's almost ended. It started 3 years ago, and it will finish in a couple of months at the end of January. You can find a lot of it in this address, https://www.w3.org/capital W, capital A, capital I/about/projects/WAI-tools. Okay, this is where you can find a lot about this project. So I'm not going to preach to the choir, but let me start by saying, by introducing WAI Tools in this manner. So access to information is a human right. It's clearly expressed in the United Nations Convention for People with Disabilities. And not only it is a human right, but it's now starting to be required by law. Finally, it was about time. And so the EU has this directive since 2016 that demanded that every of its member states transpose it to law. And that at the moment says that every website of public services must be accessible, okay? In a year, it means also that all mobile applications of public services must be accessible, okay? So this is something that it's important for everyone to know if you're still not aware, and hopefully in some more years, it's not just about public services, but it should be about every website and mobile applications. And these law requirements, basically, they point out to a European standard, the EN 301549, which establishes the accessibility requirements for ICT products and services. And this one, in fact, points out to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines in their version 2.1, which is probably something that everyone knows about, or at least as an idea of what are the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And inside the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, there are a set of techniques that are basically it's something that was designed to teach developers about accessibility. Okay, and from the perspective of the WAI Tools project, what's important about this? It's that the language in which the Web Content Accessibility Guideline techniques was written, it's ambiguous, okay? It can be interpreted in different ways. Also, if you're trying to implement something to check those techniques, there's not enough detail in that language to be able to have consistent implementations across the different implementers. They do have a strong reliance on human analysis, and that's something that we, at least for the next years, won't be able to dispense. But those also, because they are a tool for teaching, they go beyond the minimal requirements that a web page must comply with to be WCAG compliant. Okay, so because of this, these techniques, they're good for teaching developers, but from the member states that must make sure that all their public services are made accessible, those techniques fall short of being appropriate for testing and monitoring. So they have not been designed for monitoring, for testing, which means that there's something that needed to be done about that. And this is where the accessibility testing rules come into play. So the ACT rules are the result of an effort from the W3C, and their goal is to establish this consensual interpretation of what are the accessibility requirements expressed in the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Okay, having this harmonized interpretation allows someone who wants to build a tool for testing accessibility or wants to create a manual methodology for evaluating the accessibility, allows them to build such tools or such methodologies in a way that they can be compared and in a way that they know that they are creating something according to the accessibility requirements expressed in the WCAG. Okay. So this resulted in a format for writing these rules, and that format, the ACT rules format, it's a W3C recommendation from more or less a year ago, from October 2019. And the rules, they are developed through a consensus-reaching process in scope of the ACT community group, and the work done in the community group is overviewed by the ACT task force. So this is the context surrounding WAI Tools. So what does WAI Tools do in the middle of all this and the EU-funded money? So the goal of WAI Tools, it's basically to continue, and WAI Tools is led by the W3C Web Accessibility Initiative, and to continue working on these accessibility conformance testing rules. So WAI Tools aims to create further rules, aims that these rules allows to get consistent accuracy from different tool and methodology implementers. And so here we're talking about tools that work on automatas automatically. They're able to run automated tests for those rules that need some input from humans, but they have parts that can be automated. We have these semi-automated tests, and for those rules that require full human intervention, we have the manual tests. So we want to make sure that existing tools and existing evaluation methodologies really are consistent, and really there's this market where you know that, okay, if I buy a tool from this vendor or I use a tool developed by that party, I know that I'm going to get consistent results and results that are in accordance to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, okay? Because that's one of the existing sources of confusion nowadays, is running two different tools and getting different results. And so it's very difficult for the client of these tools, for the user of these tools, to understand why is he getting different results. Of course, having this kind of tools makes it much easier for the different member state bodies that are responsible for monitoring the accessibility of the products that their public services make available. Having these tools, as I was saying, makes it easier for those to run this large-scale monitoring process that they need. Okay, so as I said, WAI Tools, it's nearing its end, so it's ending in January. What have been the outcomes of this project? Of course, we've built a lot of accessibility conformance testing rules. You can find these rules and you can follow the rules evolution at https://act-rules.github.io/rules. The project had a goal of creating 70 rules. Currently, we've finished 58. Okay, so we have 12 rules to finish in the next couple of months. Creating a rule, it's something that can be very complex or very easy. We had some rules that have been written and approved by the community in more or less a month. We have rules that took over a year. Okay, so it can be a very complex process because we need to reach consensus, and some rules, especially the ones that require some manual intervention, they are more prone to being ambiguous, and that's something that an ACT rule cannot be. They need to be really objective. So it's sometimes hard to reach a consensus within the community, but we've done already that for 58 rules. Work on the 12 remaining rules is in progress. From these 58, 29 are fully automatable, 18 are semi-automatable, and 11 are fully manual. Okay. And you have the assurance that all of the non-manual, so the automatable and semi-automatable, are available already in at least 2 tools. Okay, so these tools are products from 3 different project partners. Alpha is a product from SiteImprove. Axcore, it's a product of DQ. And QualWeb, it's a product of our own that we've developed at the Faculty of Sciences of the University of Lisbon. So you can use any of these products to have access to those rules. Most of them are implemented in the 3 tools, and there are already tool implementers and methodology providers that are also making available products that implement the ACT rules. So it's something that's already spreading out from the project partners to the community. Also for the monitoring efforts, that was a second goal for the WAI Tools project. We are deploying these test rules implemented on the different tools for national accessibility monitoring efforts. 2 of the project partners are the entities responsible for Portuguese accessibility monitoring and the Norwegian accessibility monitoring efforts. And they are 2 different accessibility observatories from their foundations. The Portuguese National Accessibility Observatory, it's been in existence for over 10 years, and it's now being updated to use these tools, and it's traditionally been something that's mostly automated. So it runs an automated accessibility evaluation tool and collects the results from those and builds an accessibility score and decides, okay, is this accessible or not, and allows you if you're the owner of the website, allows you to improve on your website from those reports. The Norwegian National Accessibility Observatory, it's mostly manuals. So they do their manual checks, collect information, and then elaborate reports and allow the entities to improve based on that. Through the current legislation, none of these approaches will work isolated. So the current legislation requires accessibility checking that needs to be run automatically because of the large scope that it requires, but then requires more in-depth checking of some pages, of a sample of the pages, which will require manual checking. So they have exchanged a lot of information between them, and they have improved their methodologies. So the Norwegian Observatory, it's starting to use automated tools to assist in the project, and the Portuguese Observatory is integrating the checks from the manual methodology in Norway in order to be able also to fulfill all their requirements. So this exchange is great. We are aware that further member states are adopting the results from this project and some of the tools that have been developed. So this is growing once again outside the boundaries of the project partners. Some other results from WAI Tools that are already available for you to try. So one of the things that we needed, we had the tools, they would reach out the same results by implementing the ACT rules. We needed a format to express those results that then they could be imported especially for the large-scale monitoring efforts. So the project also developed this open format for expressing accessibility test results. We built an accessibility statement generator, something that even if you are not a vendor, so you don't really need to know a lot about the ACT tools, or you are not responsible for running monitoring, you as the owner of a public service, of a website, or of a mobile application, you will need to publish an accessibility statement, basically detailing how accessible your website is and what are your efforts in order to make it accessible. So one of the outcomes of the project is a generator of accessibility statements. So you just go there, fill out some forms, and you get an accessibility statement. Then you can upload to your website. And individual countries have their own, and so they have customized this this accessibility statement generator to their own needs. We also have extended the WCAG-EM report tool, the extended accessibility report tool. So once again, you need to report the results of an accessibility evaluation, you can use this tool. And we have also researched what kind of presentations, visualizations, analysis we could do when we have this large-scale accessibility test data. So we're going to have millions of websites evaluated across Europe. And what can we do about that? This is part of the project research that we have been running inside the University of Lisbon, and we created a prototype that allows you to inspect all the data that we get from this thousands and millions of web pages that have been assessed. And this is what I had to say. If you want to know more about WAI Tools, do get in touch with me. So if you want to contribute to creating ACT rules, or if you want to use the outcomes of the project, please get in touch with me. Moving on to the second project that I want to talk about. It's called SONAR, Social Networks Accessible Authoring. And this is, it's an interesting example of another way that you can get funding from the European Union. So this is a preparatory action. So the EU sometimes has this calls for smaller scope projects, really more focused. So you should also pay attention to that, and because these are good funding opportunities. This one in particular targeted web content authoring. Okay. And so it was called Application of Web Accessibility Requirements in Web Authoring Tools and Platforms by Default. So the web access by default. So we had one proposal approved here, and it's more or less middle work so far. It started in February this year. It will end July next year. So it's a smaller. It's not also not only a smaller scope project, but it's also more limited in time. You can find more about it at https://di.fc.ul.pt/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/cad/c to motivate you in how to write proposals. So this was a call that was looking at web authoring tools. We at the University of Lisbon, our research group, we don't build web authoring tools. We built accessibility evaluation tools. But in fact, we looked, okay, most of the content nowadays, it's not really generated by users of web authoring tools. It's generated by users of the web. So it's user-generated content. So our proposal was not really, we're going to work on a content management system or something like that. No, we're going to work on social networks. That's where most content is generated nowadays. And even though this was not what the EU had in mind when they wrote this call, they really got interested by our proposal, so and they funded us. So really, just sometimes look a bit outside of the scope, and you get some nice surprises. So what we're looking at here in Sonar, it's basically most content is generated by users of social networks, and images and videos are a large part of that content because everyone nowadays seems to have a camera-equipped mobile device. So it's very easy to snap images and to record some videos and then to post it on your social network. And luckily, social network interfaces are fairly accessible nowadays. Okay, so the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Instagrams and so on and the LinkedIn's of this world are taking some attention to the accessibility of their interfaces. But of course, it's great if you have an accessible interface. It's not great that then it allows you to see that, okay, there's an image there, but I know nothing about that image. Because the content that most users post there, it's not accessible, okay? And you can think, okay, some social networks already are able to provide textual descriptions in an automated way. That's true, but even that, it's not really a good text description for an image or a good description of a video. So it's really the user-generated content. It's unfortunately not very accessible. So what are our goals in Sonar to address this? The first one is to make it easier for users of social networks to author, to create, to generate accessible content, okay? So if you're a user of a social network that generates automatic text descriptions for you, we can, or we hope that we can help you judge the quality of that and change it you can change it so that you can improve the quality. Or we can suggest some concepts to include in the text description that you're authoring, so that you can create a high quality text description for an image that you're trying to post, okay? Of course, that won't solve the problem. For sure, not everyone will start doing that. It would be great if that was the reality, but it's not going to be the reality, at least not in the beginning. So we also want to include mechanisms that are able to reuse textual alternatives that a previous user has created for an image when that image is once again posted on a social network. Okay, so this is perhaps required because maybe you post something on Twitter and then someone reshares your image on Facebook. They will reshare the image, they won't reshare your textual alternative that you've created on Twitter. So if we can get that textual alternative from an image that's been posted on a social network and reuse it to automatically add it in a different social network, that would be great. And we want to do this both on the web and on mobile. This is the technical part. Of course, we also are looking at the more user centered part in this product. So we want to ensure that the authoring process is accessible and that users know how to create accessible content. So we, in the initial stages of the project, we studied what problems users faced when they're trying to author accessible content and also when they're consuming media content on social networks. Also, we want to promote awareness to the benefits of authoring accessible media content, okay, so that the users are motivated to do that. And we also learned that we need to educate users on how to create accessible media content, okay? It's something that most people don't really, first, they're not aware that they can do that, and second, they don't know how to do it, okay? They don't know how to write a good text description, and they don't know how to do it in the social networks itself. So our first set of activities included the usage research. So we had a questionnaire for languages on authoring and consumption of media content on social networks. And we got over 250 responses for that. We followed that up with 20 interviews. So we learned a lot about that. I don't think I don't have time to go into these findings. Perhaps you learned something because Leticia, who is attending this school, she might tell you something about this on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure, but it's up to her. Also from our developments, what can I say? We're working on this service that allows us to identify when the same image is being used in different social networks so that we can include textual descriptions for that image. And our results will be available as prototypes. Look for the first version of these prototypes by the end of January. They will be available as prototypes for Google Chrome, so some extensions that suggest textual descriptions and also teach you how to create accessible media content. And we'll also create similar tools for use on mobile devices. So once again, if you want to know something more about Sonar, if you want to contribute, just get in touch with me. You can reach me via email, caduarte@campus.ul.pt, or on Twitter my handle is Carlos APA Duarte. Thank you.